Well, welcome back. My name's Ken Rethmeier, and if you've been following along, this is actually episode number 8 of a series of episodes I'm creating using my book as the content for the models and the tools that are associated with each of the models. And my job here is to try to share with you some of my learnings over many, many years of how to improve your role as a leader in any organization at any time. And the purpose then is to use the 4 models, 4 chapters, and over 50 tools that I have used. Some I created myself, others, other people get credit for it, but they're very effective in accomplishing what I believe you will see up above. Again, leadership is the courage of having the courage to act, to do what is right, not to wait and see, not to wait and hope, but the courage to get involved now. And when I talk about leadership, that means every single day. As a leader, our responsibility is to provide value on target, on time, every time, without fail. And so as a consequence, I'm going to share the screen with the PowerPoint presentation, and we'll get started to talk about this particular episode's focus, which is what's called the tell-sell model for decision making. And the purpose behind this is that, as again from episode 7, one of the biggest challenges we have as leaders is being aware and available to do what we need to do and have the right tools for the situation. In this case, the tell-sell model, as it's known as, was created by Robert Tannenbaum and Warren Schmidt in the 1950s, believe it or not, 1950s, published by Harvard Business Review. And it really provides a template, if you will, of how to get better meetings, realistic expectations, and also achievable expectations. Very important. So what I want you to do is be thinking about your own organization or your own team, and what do they say about the meetings? What do you hear? Sometimes we don't like to hear it, but if they trust you, they will give you the feedback you need in order to provide a better agenda for the meetings and then execute it accordingly. Let's go back real quickly. This is about inspired leadership, the first chapter, and a leader's role of providing capacity, that's the vision, capability, that is the ongoing learning process, and this tool is great for that. And so doing, providing your team with the information that they need, or the background that they need, and the confidence to do what needs to be done as an aligned organization with a clear sense of the vision. So in meetings, there's a few points here that we probably ought to mention, and that is make sure you have the right people at the meeting. I know that is tough, and I know in some organizations people might get upset. Why wasn't I at that meeting? So as a leader, it's your responsibility to help them understand when we have meetings, it's not a y'all come approach. Southern phrase, sorry. It's about getting the right people, having the right agendas and processes in place, and then your guidelines for making that decision will vary. And that's what the tell-sell model is all about. And so as a consequence, we're going to work as hard as we can to see how we can help you define your meetings better. Well, here's Tannenbaum and Schmidt. Their tell-sell model is a range from tell to join. And the arrow is indicating the degree of participation that others in the meeting besides the leader would have in the process. The tell end is top down. I'm going to tell you what the decision is. Join is we all work together, and I'm going to lay out some guidelines, but we're going to work together to come up with the right decision. It's not my decision at that point. It's a collective decision. So the tell-sell model provides a lot of flexibility for leaders to identify on their formats of their agendas to help people understand. And it also very responsible to identify who the role players are, what kind of roles they have. So when they walk into a meeting, they know exactly what's going to happen other than some of the content and so forth. And in this case, the tell-sell model is also a very unique tool because it opens the opportunity to engage a broader audience in the process. And that's great because what will happen then is you will be in a better position to develop that trust and expand that trust, which is critical to the success of you and your team. But sometimes, and I know this doesn't happen to you, sometimes we get to meetings and we say, why are we here? What's the purpose of the meeting? The leader hasn't done his or her homework properly, and people walk in sort of scratching their heads. What's going to happen? What do we know? And I've got a little video to help illustrate that point.
It's already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody have that?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody. Hello? There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something? I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
Well, but enough what to do.
So I know this has never happened to you. And the idea here is that when you get on an escalator, you expect it to move you to the upper floor, right? And then when it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, in this case, for humor purposes, it sort of puts those two people in a difficult position because we expect it to move. We need help getting off. And so when you go into a meeting, anything you can do as a leader to eliminate that kind of problem, and think about this. The last time you were in a department store and the escalators weren't working like they should be, they were stopped. What went through your mind when you got to that escalator? I don't know about you, but when I have that happen, I step back and say, wait a minute, this thing's supposed to be moving, but it isn't, so I'm going to have to climb the stairs like any other person. Okay, let's get back to the model. The tell end is a very important part because that's the one where the leader has an opportunity through continuous education and learning, help the participants of the meeting understand, I have made the decision. And what I need for you to do is to understand the rationale, the criteria, what the decision was, and then very importantly, what kind of role would you have in executing whatever that decision is? And it's important. Now, in terms of the range of different choices, sell, test, consult, and join, the tell model is a very efficient, short-term kind of meeting. So you just have to make sure that everyone understands clearly what's going on. Now let's move towards the sell model. This is a very good one. And if you have good trust in your organization, this will be a good one to exercise, if you will. You're still the decision maker, but the group has to make a commitment to understand and accept what that decision is. Very important. Two parts. And they also then have to take ownership because they will probably have something that they will have to do as a result of that decision. So once again, the people in the audience are looking for clarity and understanding that they can take and translate into their own areas. And maybe they have to go back and debrief the meeting for their teams so they understand as well. The test mode is the next one. And in this case, you're still a decision maker if you're the leader of the meeting. But you have compiled what you think is going to be the right decision. But what you need to do is to run out to your group basis, pardon the pun, and test that decision. And that's a great way to engage the participants of the meeting to really be part of the process. And as a consequence, you tell them right up front, hey, no questions are outlawed. Challenge me if you want to, because I want to make sure that a decision I've made is going to be the right decision. And what that does is that offers the team even more ownership of the outcome, just because of its very nature. And that's very, very good. So you as a leader, on the other hand, have to be aware that when you say the test mode, you're welcoming challenges and you're welcoming questions. And for you, it's a great opportunity as well to understand, how does the group process this? How do they feel about it? And then the outcomes are going to be superb. So let's move on to the consult mode. The consult mode is one where I, as a leader, may be a good leader, but I may not have all the technical expertise or the information I need in order to make that decision. I'm going to still make that decision, but you and the team are going to help me, because some of you have the private knowledge or technical knowledge that's going to help me form my final decision. So when I come to you and say, okay, I need your input on this, tell me a little bit about, if I say A, what is your response to A, and how does that fit within the decision I think I have to make? And so it's a very important and a very, very powerful tool that allows the group to be very much involved. And as a consequence, when they leave the meeting, if the decision is what they thought it should be, that's very important. Now, I can tell you many, many years ago, I reported to a gentleman who was actually the commanding officer of the Naval School the Naval Hospital in Havelock, North Carolina. And he did a great job. He would always ask me my advice whenever he had a decision. And at the end of the day, when I walked out of the office, I knew like I had truly affected his decision and provided him the information he needed. Whether he followed my advice or not was irrelevant, but I was involved in the process. And for stakeholders and anybody else, it's a great way to create the buy-in you want to move forward. Finally, the join model is the last one. And that's the one where everybody makes the decision. They're going to make this decision collectively. And the whole idea here is that as a leader, you're now not the decision maker, but your job is to facilitate the dialogue in such a way to set the tone and the process and how we're going to collectively create the right decision. And that takes a lot of work. It's a lot longer to do, but it offers an opportunity for the participants to exercise some creativity and critical thinking in order to come to the right decision. And as you see there, the group defines the decision threshold, and that's very important. And in this case, if you're in your first 90 days, this is the kind of decision-making process you would like to have, because what that does is that helps build the team working relationships amongst themselves and understanding. It offers an opportunity for unique ideas. And more importantly, it is a collective effort, which will then result in greater trust that you have within the group. Now, how do you do that? One practical way, in my opinion, is to set up your agenda, as you see here, with the times, who is the decision maker, and what mode are they in. And what that does is when people walk in the room, they see the scope of what we're going to do, the approximate time frames we're going to work with them, and most importantly, who's that decision maker, which will help me understand my role. And then secondly or thirdly, what mode is that decision maker in? And that's a very important piece. And I'll just show you, that's a sort of blown up version of it. Now, what I'm going to do is, as this ends, I'm going to attach this agenda format to the podcast, and hopefully I'll be able to get it so that you can download it for your own references. So as a consequence, that's the last part of episode 8. And I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you saw some value in your own organization. And whether you want to use the models that were used and the tools in episode 7 or expanded differently in episode 8, that's up to you. But I encourage you to take full advantage of it. And as a consequence, I want to thank you again for being part of the process. I really appreciate it. And as a consequence, I'm going to be looking for you to be available at our next episode number 9. So thank you. All the best with you. And we'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.